give a warm round of applause for Sharon Horgan and Grace Van Patten. Hi. I thought we could start with what was sort of your familiarity with when the Amanda Knox events really happened. What do you remember about hearing about the case, or what you heard about it back then?
I was pretty young at the time. I was in middle school, but I definitely remember hearing her name. Like, that name was very engraved in my brain. But when I really learned the most about it was in a Netflix documentary that came out, I think in 2015. And that's when I really discovered how insane this story was, and was just so fascinated by it.
Sharon, what do you
I
remember?
was really quite aware of it because the British press were obsessed with that story in a very damaging, very awful way. So the my perspective on it would have been quite different to an American's perspective on it at the time. But yeah, it was they made a circus out of it. So.
Yeah, it was like so sensational. I remember that too. And there's so many details on this that are so incredible that I feel like I would have never known if I hadn't seen this series. But Grace, can you tell me about what made you want to do this? Because it is such an incredibly demanding role.
I was so fascinated by her as a human being, especially when watching the documentary. And when I first watched it, I called my agents right away. It was around when I was starting acting, and I was like, is there any project going on about Amanda Knox? Because I would love to play her.
Really?
Yes.
Did you?
Yes. And this was in 2016 or something. So when this came around, it felt like something I really, really wanted to do. And I didn't even know too much about it. I just saw her, and I saw this young girl who was involved in this situation and could not believe that her story had not been told with her involved. So it was a very, very instant and easy thing that I wanted to be a part of.
And what was your process like to get the role?
I found out I was in the mix for it because I saw she started following me on Instagram. And my sister kind of runs my Instagram for me, and she sent me a screenshot, and my heart dropped, and I texted everyone. I was like, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And they told me that they were thinking of me for it, and I met with KJ, the showrunner, and Warren Littlefield, and they walked me through their vision for it. And it was a pretty quick process. And I was just so inspired by their vision for it and how they were planning to tell her story. I thought it was so smart and so specific, and had such a perspective.
Sharon, can you tell me what your process was to come on board?
Well, I had, it was through my agent, Jessica Kovacevic, at WME, and she had told me about the project and told me that it was Warren, and obviously the shows he's made before, Handmaid's Tale and Fargo. I knew that it was going to be a really classy project, but I met them on Zoom. I think I was in Prague at the time, and I did that thing that I always do, which is going, why do you want me? Like, that's why. And then, I guess there was, they were talking to him, a few people, but then when they came back, I had sort of lost a bit of faith in whether it was the right thing for me to do, and the way you kind of tell yourself all the reasons not to do it. Yeah. So we did a Zoom, but it was this time it was with KJ, the creator, and Warren, and but also Amanda was on the Zoom, and that was the thing that really swung it for me, because because of how she talked about her mum, you know, because of how she talked about, well, I guess how incredibly difficult it was for her, but she felt that it was actually harder for her mother while she was in prison, because there was, you know, she had, I don't know, something to focus on, and all her mother had was just, you know, the desperation and the feeling of not being able to help her child. And it was very emotional hearing her talk about it, and then I was in.
So what did you anticipate to be most challenging about playing each of these roles, and how did you prepare to sort of be ready when it was time?
Gosh, I think going in, I knew that the whole process was going to be very intense and challenging, but in an exciting way. I've never done anything like this ever, and I've never played a real existing person in the world, so that was really exciting to me. But I would say the most challenging, or what I was most fearful about, was just doing it justice. Amanda was involved, and so the challenging part was making sure that she felt I was telling her story in the right way, because she's had her story told for her so many times, and I wanted to be a part of the version that was her. So that was probably the main challenge kind of going through my brain throughout it all.
Sharon, what did you anticipate being most challenging? Like, did you want to make sure you had time with Amanda's mom? What?
Well, I didn't actually meet her mum until, you know, further into filming, and I knew I wasn't going to be attempting to do, you know, an impersonation in any way. It was more sort of trying to, you know, just ground it, you know, and like Grace said, I was really nervous about kind of going through that, you know, and I felt like I needed the team to reassure me that they're, you know, that they were going to sort of look after me in that way, you know, because when you're putting your body through that all the time, I mean, it's 10 times worse for you, but you know what I mean, you kind of need to know that you're in safe hands. And but you know, I sort of, I watched, there's not a lot of stuff online, you know, with Edda talking, but I found some videos of her doing some, you know, early press conferences, and just thought it was, you know, how someone who's from such a completely normal, very different background was able to handle that, you know, and had this sort of inner dignity and bravery. It just sort of, yeah, I watched as much as I could find, and then the rest of it was just sort of how I related to her as a mother. You know, I've got a 21-year-old daughter, and that was kind of, you know, what I tapped into.
Grace, how much time did you get to spend with Amanda, and what did you learn anything about her that surprised you?
I met her a few times before we started shooting. The first time was on Zoom, and I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how open she was going to be and how willing to share things with me she was going to be. And she was just instantly so extremely vulnerable and willing to tell me anything I wanted to know, which was so comforting, because I didn't know how much access I was going to have for communication with her. So it was really just a relief to speak to her, and for it to really feel like a collaboration. And I didn't feel the pressure. I didn't feel her eyes on me of wanting me to completely mimic her in any way. She was encouraging me to bring parts of myself to it. So that was really nice. And then she came, and she was on set towards the end of the shoot. So really kind of scattered throughout the whole process. She was in and out, and I texted her if I had questions, and she was always very, very willing to answer them.
Was it difficult to act when you knew that she would be on set?
I really thought it was going to be, but it wasn't. It actually it just made me really emotional. She was there for the big interrogation scene at the end of episode 2, and that was just a scene I was already nervous for, and I knew she was going to be there because of the scene we all really wanted to get right. But having her there was like a weird safety. Like I knew that we were going to get it right because she was there, and I felt her support, and it just made me really emotional and motivated to do it as authentically as possible.
Sharon, did you feel any pressure when Amanda would be on set to watch you? Because you have to imagine she's thinking of her own mother at least a little bit.
Yeah, I did. I did. I mean, and when her mum was there as well. But it was because, I mean, like I said, you just want to tell her story the right way, and these moments that are, you know, for them must have been so hard to watch. Like, I must still feel very sort of close to them, and I think I was kind of anxious that they would be upset by the scenes. And you know, we did that one that was on the balcony that day when when Amanda's telling her mum that she's going to go back.
Yeah.
And it was and they were both sort of downstairs kind of looking up at us.
Yes.
And it was incredibly emotional, but you just wanted to get it right for them.
Grace, how much time did you have to prepare the speaking Italian part of this process?
I think I had a month and a half before I went to go shoot it, but I was lucky in the way that there was such a progression of her knowing Italian, and we shot it pretty much in order. So I was able to continue to learn while I was there, and shooting in Rome for the first month was so helpful because all of the crew were Italian, and I was able to kind of immerse myself in it as much as possible and speak it as much as I could. But not too long before shooting.
That's really incredible. I think that when she's talking to the jury in this episode, everyone just watch that whole thing in Italian, and the emotion you're able to bring to it is so incredible. What do you remember about shooting that?
Being extremely nervous. That was crazy. I knew that speech was coming, so it was I was kind of running that through my head throughout the whole time until it happened, and it's such an important moment. So I just wanted to not only just learning the lines in Italian, but knowing what I'm saying, and yeah. But I did it.
You did it. Incredible. I also think this episode 6, has really that incredible scene between the two of you where Amanda is saying, like, I'm finding a way to deal with this, and her mother is like, does not want to accept that. And I thought it was so emotional for me. I'm a mom too, and I just, like, that was one of the most emotional moments for me. What do you two remember about filming that scene?
It was sad.
Being in a state, actually.
Yeah.
And again, like, exactly that, just thinking about my own daughter. And, you know, we've as a mother, things haven't always been straightforward, you know, for me and my relationship with my girls. So it was using that, but also Grace was just breaking my heart. And so, yeah, we were sort of support animals for each other in that scene.
Yeah, it's crazy because it is this unimaginable thing that happened to this family, but relatable in so many ways when you just put yourself in a situation with like I did, imagining my own mom, telling my own mom that, like, there are real life things that we can all connect to, just being away from your family, your mom or your daughter, whatever it is. Like, those parts felt so real.
Yeah.
And tell me about playing her through these different sort of points in her life, because in this episode we see her get obviously very depressed, but in the early episode she has this, you know, really open spirit to her when she first gets to Italy. What was that like to run such a wide range of emotions?
Yeah, I really wanted to differentiate them as much as possible. You see Amanda throughout a lot of phases in her life. Her before the tragedy happened, when she was just so pure and naive and just on an adventure for the first time in her life, and to capture that was really, really fun and exciting. And then there's being in prison and not knowing what's going on and going through that, and then present day Amanda, after she's gone through all of this and is still dealing with it, and adapting to real life again. So yeah, the process of trying to just make all of those versions feel a little bit different, but still maintain what Amanda still has to this day, which is an amount of positivity that I couldn't imagine having going through that. She's so empathetic to everyone involved in the situation, and so positive, and has been able to come through the other side of it, which is so inspiring to me.
Did the two of you learn anything from each other while shooting this?
Nothing.
I learned what an incredible actor you are. You know, I mean, what was amazing was how you were able to tap into your emotions so easily. That I mean, I was
going to say the
floored
same
by it.
thing about you.
Really?
Yes. You could be like laughing with me, or like on a phone call about something completely different. Like, you were a boss in every way, and I feel like you were dealing with so many things during that shoot, and was able to muster up the emotion and play this part so specifically and so emotionally that blew my mind.
Well, I'll say one other thing. This isn't, you know, I'm not going to fangirl too much, but the amazing thing about you is how, you know, away from it all, how just what a lovely, normal, great number one on the call sheet person you are. Like, how you dealt with everyone, and, you know, you're a really gracious, beautiful person to be around. So she's an incredible actor, but honestly, and just a real doll of a person as well. It's true. It just is true.
I mean, since this is most likely an actor audience, and Sharon, since you're also, you know, a writer and creator yourself, I'm curious more generally how you know you want to sign on to a project that, you know, it's not something you wrote.
Yeah.
What do you look for in a script? Or
And also something like this, which is so different from anything either of us have done before. You know, a true story, and you know, well, I think it was just, I think you want something that feels like it's got a voice you haven't heard before. I think, you know, I mean, there's a lot of American crime type stories out there, and this just felt like it was doing something.
Yes, there are a few.
There are, but this was doing something so completely different, and it was taking a big swing, you know, tonally. It was, you know, just in the look of it as well, and the fact that, you know, it's an awful, terrible, tragic story, but there's an awful lot of absurdity within that story as well, and KJ sort of being very brave with that tone, and so you sign on because of those reasons, you know, because it's so singular and it's doing something very different. But there are also the things that make you, you know, a little bit nervous as well, because you are.
It's risky.
Yeah. But I think she absolutely landed it. Well, the whole kind of creative team did. But yeah, I try and look for just a really good script that's doing something different from the average script that you read, I'd say.
And Grace, what did you learn from this? I mean, you're saying it's the first real person you've played. As I'm saying, it's incredibly demanding. What sort of sticks with you as you go on to your next project?
I would say I learned so much from Amanda. I really did. how, I mean, I was saying this before, but the way she's able to forgive and maintain positivity and live her life and not let this horrible thing that happened ruin her was really inspiring to me. And hearing her speak about it with humor sometimes and intelligence, and I really was in awe of how she's handled things, and on a very way smaller level, to approach things like that, you know, not taking things too seriously, and just learned a lot from her.
How's your Italian now?
I think it's all out the window now. I told myself, I was like, I'm gonna keep my Duolingo streak. But no.
We're almost out of time, but how did you feel about Amanda and her mom watching the whole, obviously she's involved, but what did you think about her sitting down and watching the show, and how much responsibility did you feel for how she would feel?
I mean, they were all at the premiere, and it was so beautiful. They seemed really happy.
I mean, it's finally she got a chance to tell her story from her perspective. It's such a huge thing, and her dad was there, and her sister, and her mom, Edda, of course, and I mean, again, sorry to keep saying the word emotional, but it was emotional. I mean, there was a Q&A at the start with Monica Lewinsky, who's one of the executive producers on the show, and Amanda and KJ and Warren, and I mean, it was extraordinary, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was really, really incredible, talking about how it came about, and both of their experiences as, women who've had to, deal with, I mean, I couldn't even begin to imagine how they kind of came through it, and they did, and they are so strong and clever and doing something really important, in telling these stories. I mean, it's great to be part of it for that reason,
Well, I think you both did such incredible work, and I'm so glad we get to talk about it a little bit. Please